Louis Quilico was one of the leading operatic baritones of the 20th century. His sudden passing on July 15, 2000 was a great loss to the musical world. Quilico performed at many of the world's great opera houses: Covent Garden, the Paris Opera, the Bolshoi, and the Vienna Staatsoper, to name only a few. He was a stalwart of the Metropolitan Opera, appearing nearly 300 times over 25 consecutive years. At the Met, he sang under the baton of James Levine, Zubin Mehta, Richard Bonynge and Claudio Abbado, and alongside tenors including Luciano Pavarotti, Placido Domingo, John Vickers and José Carreras, and sopranos Joan Sutherland, Renata Tebaldi, Renata Scotto, and Beverly Sills. Louis Quilico was an ideal interpreter of the great Italian and French composers, but it was his defining portrayal of Rigoletto, the hunchbacked jester in Verdi's tragic masterpiece, that won him international acclaim, as well as the nickname Mr. Rigoletto. He sang the role more than 500 times, the last being at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa in September of 1994. After his retirement from the operatic stage in 1998, he continued to perform, touring extensively with his wife, the celebrated pianist Christina Petrowska Quilico. Together they made 4 recordings and a teaching video, and collaborated on the book Mr. Rigoletto in Conversation with Louis Quilico. In this book, Quilico shared his views on singing, on opera, and on his signature role, Rigoletto. He also talked about his own personally devised vocal techniques, sharing them with a new generation of singers. What is missing in the printed version of these conversations is Quilico's own voice and his unique personality. In these recordings, we hear him speak in his own words, with his own voice, unfiltered and unedited. Speaking personally, baritone Louis Quilico, Mr. Rigoletto, in conversation with Christina Petrowska Quilico. In this conversation, Louis talks about his first Rigoletto in Burlington, Vermont, 1959.
What was your first Rigoletto? Where was it? What year? Who did you sing with? And what was your preparation? How did you mentally prepare for the role of Rigoletto?
Well, my first Rigoletto was done with the New York City Opera in 1959. And it was after the season in New York. We were supposed to go to Burlington, Vermont. And I had promised to deliver before the night the tenor that was singing Rigoletto. His name was Gismondo. And in fact, my first soprano to sing Rigoletto, her name was Lisa Di Giulio. And what happened, I drove, we did the dress, like a kind of a dress in New York, before I left. Then the next day I left, and I had the part of my family with me and everything. And my intention was to go home and see my daughter. And all of a sudden, when we arrived in Burlington, I delivered the tenor at the moment I arrived there, he decided to go and see the performance, because that night we arrived, there was a performance of Butterfly. I said, please go. We arrived about 8 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, I had just finished eating in the restaurant, and I was going to go home. all of a sudden, the tenor walks in, running. Louis, you have to come out of the theater. I says, what for? He says, you have to finish the opera because the baritone is sick, and they cannot finish the performance of Butterfly if somebody doesn't finish. And you have done Butterfly. Please come and help them. I says, well, listen, I got to do the performance. But he says, please come and help them. I decided that I stayed, and I did the performance. I finished the second and the third act of Butterfly. But what I should have done that day, I should have stayed in Burlington and sleep there. No, what I did, I drove all the way to Montreal. That was about 125 miles more. And the next day, I came back, and in the afternoon was the real dress rehearsal of Rigoletto, orchestra, chorus, and everything. And because they had put up the scenery and all that. Then, at night, I had to do the performance. And all of a sudden, I did the dress rehearsal that afternoon like a maniac. I really sang like if it was a real performance. In fact, Julius walked in my dressing room and said, Louis, please shut up. I said, you see the door? Take it and get out. I says, either this opera, I'll be able to master it, or it's going to master me. Anyway, we finished the dress rehearsal in the afternoon, and at night I did the performance. Well, I figured that one thing, 50 performance after that night, I was still doing better the first night I sang it. I was like a real, what do you call it, race horse. It was incredible.
You were turned on by the challenge. Tell me about the challenge of doing such a role. What makes it so difficult for baritones?
Well, first of all, dramatically, it's a very difficult opera because there's a lot of demand physically, mentally, and me, that is maybe my big problem. I'm very, very mentally always stressed out in doing a performance. Like I always say, for me, when I do a performance, it's like my last performance. And that is the thing why it was so difficult to do that kind of a performance. Because to do the dress rehearsal in the afternoon and putting everything I had, and on top of that at night, but that's what I needed. I needed to see, am I the master of this opera, or the opera is the master of me? And that's the thing that I discovered.
What makes the role so difficult vocally?
Because if you ever have a chance to see the role of Rigoletto and you look at the score, it lays in a tessitura that no other voice in their own repertoire will lay at that height. It's like a tenor that would sing G, A, B, and C natural all evening. And that's why it's very, very, very difficult. Plus, like I said, cynically, it demands a lot. If you are sincere, mentally, it's a drama. It's a complete drama. And if you, like I said, if you're really sincere, it can drive you. It's very dangerous for that reason.
What about vocalizing?
Before
Rigoletto, do you have to vocalize?
No, sing less as possible, because there's so much singing to be done already in the Rigoletto. That's the thing that's very important. Now, I think for me, what is very important, I always did that, it's to condition my mind for it. Because if I don't condition my mind, I don't go through this kind of opera. It is no way.
How do you condition your mind to a role such as Rigoletto?
Well, the point is, it's to be able to come at a point that you are just by yourself. Nothing in this world can disturb you. Your mind has to be conditioned that you are alone. And all of a sudden, there you are in a world by himself. Because Rigoletto, it's one of the greatest opera for me that has ever been written. Because it's got all kind of emotion. Vocally, it's demanding never to finish. And cynically, Hey, boy, it's a toughie.
Tell me the story in your own words.
Of Rigoletto?
Yeah, forget the libretto. Tell me.
The libretto, let's forget about it. Well, how can I say? Mentally, Rigoletto, you know, when you're a cripple, and in those years, to be crippled was terrifying. The reason is nobody had pity for these kind of people. And that was already an handicap for a man like Rigoletto. But at the same time, this handicap that you found in the Rigoletto, in the life of the Rigoletto, created a monster that he became. Because in court, in those years, the buffoni, not only Rigoletto, all the buffoni in court were, in general, the most powerful people.
Why was that?
Well, it was simple because they were very close to either the king or the duke, or call it the way you want it. And that was the reason why they were very powerful. Plus, on top of that, they had a mind of kind of investigating always not the right beauty of life, but the opposite. To see if he could harm anybody.
Rigoletto was a jester. I wonder if this is recording me.
Oh, yes.
How do you compare him to the other great, clowns? I mean, there's the story of Pagliacci, there's the Hunchback of Notre Dame, you know, all these stories.
Well, Rigoletto was at the court. That was the difference. Pagliacci, there's no court. In fact, he's a buffon going with that circus.
Yeah, but as a character, I'm just trying to get you to.
Well, the character in Rigoletto or in Pagliacci, there's something similar, but one is much broader than the other one. You see, Tonio is not so broad for one reason, but in reality, he's the one that brings Canio to discover the infidelity of his wife. And what happened with Rigoletto? Rigoletto was the opposite. In the court, to find the person that he was able to make, practically like to make suffer. Because with that, it was his glory. The king would glorify Rigoletto to have found this kind of a character. Because most of the court people, the one of Rigoletto, I don't know how the rest of the world, but for instance, the court of Rigoletto, where Rigoletto was that kind of court. They were always trying to instigate something from the other guy and from the other one, from the other one, from the other one. And that was the thing, you see.
How do you like to play Rigoletto? Do you like the audience to feel sympathy for him, or do you like to...
I tell you frankly, I never tried to have sympathy. I think in the contrary. I think sympathy is not exactly right. I think it's the opposite. Well, yeah, there's a moment of sympathy, yes, because the public sees it. The public knows the opera very often, and they will feel that there's got to be sympathy for this man. But in reality, it's not really sympathy that they should have. Because if you don't know what is happening, after he opens the house, he goes to his house, he opens the door. Nobody knows who's the girl. Even the courtyard, the courtier, they what do you call it, abduct the girl, thinking, well, he's got the lover. And you see, this is the point. And Rigoletto was that kind of person to instigate all the time, Like, for instance, at the beginning, when Monterone comes in and he insults him, you know, when he starts to talk about his daughter, then all of a sudden Rigoletto takes over and ridiculizes completely the daughter. And this is where he shows his kind of personality. Naturally, he's afraid of the vendetta or things like that. That I'm with 100%, because it does happen that he is more or less in the first act already a little bit, then the second act comes even worse.
What are your favorite Rigolettos other than yourself?
Well, I have to say one thing. I did not see many Rigoletto. I saw very few of them. And I remember the one that really I was very satisfied when I saw it was, for instance, Warren. And I think another one that when I saw him at the very first time, vocally he was very good, but then after that it's not possible to listen to him in it, was Tito Gobbi. But for the rest, I don't know. I saw many Rigoletto, and they don't really play Rigoletto.
How many times have you played Rigoletto?
Oh, well, I think about 507 times. That's going to be quite a few of them.
Now, add that to dress rehearsals.
No. Well, yes, you have to add. Oh, yes. And for instance, there's a lot of plays where you have a dress rehearsal, then you have a run-through, you know. Let's say run-through altogether in the 507, let's say you had about 100. And dress rehearsal, let's say about 102, something like that. I mean, it becomes to 705 times I've done it, you know. Plus, during the week, you rehearse.
Before you step on the stage, how do you prepare yourself for the role?
Never prepare myself for one reason. I'm a man that I work with instinct. And if I have to prepare a thing, this is what I'm going to do, this phrase, that phrase, I cannot do that. It's just not possible. And a lot of people that saw my Rigoletto, I never do it the same.
How do you manage with the stage directors? Talk a bit about the stage direction.
I have to say one thing. With the stage director, I never really had a problem, because the thing is, 95 to 97% of the stage director who are intelligent. Some of them, they're not too intelligent, but in general, they're intelligent enough. They know how many times you've done Rigoletto. They saw you do it so many times, and they know you've done the production. They're going to come in with no way that they can betray all the production I have done. Once or twice it happened, but it's not with the director. My big problem was much more with the conductor than the director.
What would you say are some of your best Rigoletto performances? Tell me who you did it with, the conductors, the stage directors.
Oh my God, there's so many of them, you know. You're catching me the wrong time now.
Yeah.
I remember Julius Rudel. Oh God.
For example, who was your Gilda? Who was the Duke?
Well, I'll have to do something. I've got to write them down. I'll write them down and I'll tell you later. Because right now that's Gail Robinson, Colette Bucky. I did it in Russia, but I don't remember the name of the Russian woman.
No, but is there one particular Rigoletto that stands out for you more than any other?
There is one, but I still don't know who was the Gilda, because I'll tell you why. I came and replaced at the second act, at the Met.
That's with Patinet.
With Patinet. And I have to say one thing. That was, if I have to say, maybe the greatest Rigoletto I ever done in my life. But there was an excitement, there was a dramaticity that was so incredible that that's why I never felt with others as much as I felt that night.
Now, do you attribute that to patinage?
Oh yes. That I'm sorry to say it. It's not my doing, because my doing, it's all right for the public. But for me on the stage, it's not me who gives it to the conductor. It's the conductor who's got to give it to me.
And what was it about his conducting that night?
Oh, it was like a racehorse. You know, it was like you were out of breath. You were, the mind spins so fast because the way you conducted it, that your mind was spinning. My mind that night was spinning like I never remember. In fact, I have to say that it's the only time, in fact, it was written in the New York Times, it's the only time that I think in the history of the Met that after an aria, not at the end of an act, at the end of an act, at the end of an aria, that there was a standing ovation from the public. That was so incredible. And that it had not to do only by me. Patinage was responsible for that.
Yeah, well, with opera, it's the whole ensemble that has to click.
Yeah, but sometimes you might have somebody that can come out, you know. Like, for instance, you see Placido, Luciano. You know, there is something, there's a charisma about these two men that is so important. And this is what happened with Patinage. It was incredible.
Okay, so you're going to list that. What was one of the worst performances of Rigoletto? Tell me.
Oh, one of the worst, I have to tell you where it was. It was in Paris. And the soprano was a terrible soprano. I'm not going to name her, but the only thing is, all of a sudden, she didn't realize that this opera is not called Lucia or Traviata. It's called Rigoletto. And I was not supposed to do this. I was not supposed to do that. I says, Madam, when you sing Traviata and you sing Lucia, I says, do I come and command you to do what you want? You know, I had told her, I says, the ending of the vendetta, it's got to be so long. Then she came up after and she says, why couldn't you tell me? I says, I told you before.
And what do you mean? You have to explain
Well,
what you meant.
the end of the act, you take a high note, I took a high note, and you hold it like maybe 7 or 8 beat. She cut at the 5th beat, me, I went on to the 8th beat. I'm sorry to say that I'm supposed to go to the 8th beat. She didn't. But all of a sudden, she really got mad. And in fact, I wanted to give up the performance. And then I came back to myself and I says, that's what she would like me to do, because her husband used to sing Rigoletto. But thank God, when I was there, he didn't sing it. But that was one of the worst time I ever... No, there's another time that I remember. I'm so sorry. San Diego, California. I had a conductor that was so full of himself, that believed that, there's only one way to conduct Rigoletto, there's only one way to sing Rigoletto, the way Verdi intended it. I know that in the score, the vendetta is written in 4, but he wanted to conduct it in 4. I said, Maestro, there's no human being that can do that. Verdi intended, I said, Maestro, do me a favor, don't beat it in 4. When we did the dress rehearsal, he beat it in 4. I stopped. I said, Maestro, not in 4. Finally, when I saw like that, I went to see the director of the theater, and I said, listen, you better tell him not to beat it in 4, because me, I'm going to do something. I'm going to finish much sooner than him. Plus, on top of that, he's going to finish the opera by himself. Because after all, I'm Rigoletto. Oh. It's already difficult enough the way it is that you're going to give me a man that's going to try to put his nose in something that has no right,
Tell me, when you're doing Rigoletto with a company, how many rehearsals do you get?
Well,
and how does it work?
It depends where you go. If you go in the provincial houses in the United States, for let's call it provincial, you will have about roughly about 10 to 12 days of rehearsal. And in fact, it became at the point where I was so renowned for my Rigoletto that for about, I would say, 7 or 8 years, before I would go down to rehearse, the director would call me and said, Louis, would you mind to come only in about 6 days before the performance? Because we know exactly what you want to do, and that's what we want to do too. And that was the point. See, my Rigoletto became so known by these people. And I have to say one thing, it was the closest thing to be. For me, it was the closest thing there was to do Rigoletto. And I think that's the thing that they judged, that they couldn't do better than that.
Is that your favorite role?
I have to say yes. Because the thing is, Rigoletto is one of the greatest opera, like I said, I repeat, I said that before, it's one of the greatest opera that ever been given to human to be able to listen to. And my big sorrow about Rigoletto is that very often what is happening, the theater, they don't make anything special for it. You know, they just say, well, Rigoletto, don't worry about it. And it is true. Rigoletto, put it bad, good, ashy, terrible, it's still going to come out like a real winner.
Is that because of the story or the music?
I think it's both. It's a fusion of both of them, you know. I think the fusion is so incredible because even if you got somebody that doesn't sing right the part, it's still going to come out by himself.
It has one of the most renowned tenor arias as well, and
La Donna Immobile.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And the soprano aria.
Caranome. Well, they are, and I have to say, sometimes I wish I would be a tenor to be able to sing and show the rest of the tenor in the world how to sing La Donna Immobile, because the word it means exactly. For me, I don't recall to have heard many tenors that really gave me satisfaction to hear them sing that aria. For the soprano in Caranome, I think it's more easy to be satisfied. I don't know why is it, but naturally, one is difficult to understand. The other one is much, much less difficult to understand.
There's also the famous quartet.
Oh, well, that you come up to a masterpiece, because that is, for me, the music himself. This you don't have to hear the words or anything like that. You just listen to it's a beautiful masterpiece, music masterpiece there is. And it's got its own impact, it's got everything in it.
What about costuming for Rigoletto? What are your thoughts on some of the modern productions? There was one with Rigoletto in a wheelchair, and what's your feeling about redesigning opera and putting it in modern-day clothes?
I'm going to tell you one thing. There are certain things that you can do. But for me, why don't you do it with other things than a Rigoletto? You see, Rigoletto, for me, when the public goes to the theater, they want to go to the theater for one thing. They want to forget. They want to see something that is not part of their life. And what happened? You give them exactly what is happening every single day of your life. Today, with gangsterism and everything, I'm sorry to say it, you're barking the wrong tree. And this is where the director very often make a mistake.
But some productions can be done in a very interesting way with a little bit of modern touches. Are you saying not to touch Rigoletto at all?
I will not say that, but the only thing is, don't bring me Rigoletto in a Cadillac. You understand this is what I'm talking about? You know, for instance, I did Tosca once in very modern dress, for instance, but it was still not today. It represented the Italy in I think it was 1935, the time of Mussolini, and I was dressed like Mussolini. And I have to tell you one thing: it worked very beautifully. But when you come up with things that I don't know, Aida and the tenors got to die in the what do you call gas chamber, things like that, you know, or electrocuted. I'm sorry to say it. No, leave a little bit to the imagination of the public. Don't bring them something that it's current of today. You know, it's like you're talking about the Rigoletto that came out, and that was a mafia. It's a mafia that kills the daughter and all that stuff. No, you know, there is certain things. Plus, on top of that, I think the glamour. You know, there's a lot of things you can do, other things. But an opera like Rigoletto, leave it with this flavor. I think that's the way to do it. Because it's dangerous to come up with something. It's like Manon, you won't do it. You won't do Manon with these big, huge dress. It's not Manon anymore. You know, they did that. Like I saw not too long ago, Don Giovanni. My God. All of a sudden you see Donna Anna. She's in the bedroom. She's got only a what do you call a brassiere and her petticoat there. You know, it doesn't belong there.
So you think it takes away from the beauty of the words and the music?
I don't think it takes away from the words or anything like that. No, but it takes away from the imagination of the people that are there paying $50, $60, $70. And these are the people that you have to try to think. Well, if you're going to modernize something, it makes no sense. You know, not everybody wants to really. If they're going to commit a murder, people don't want to know before you're going to commit the murder. You understand? But not to come at the point where you give them on a silver platter. You know, it's not right.
Did you do Rigoletto with Luciano?
Oh yes.
And Domingo?
Domingo, no. No, Domingo, I'm not sure if Domingo ever sang the Rigoletto. I don't know.
You have a CD with Carreras.
Yes. That was the very first CD Carreras ever did, in fact. When he came to America, that was his debut at City Opera.
And how old was he?
Oh my God, I don't know.
He must have been pretty young.
Well, I think he had about maybe 3 years career, something like that, you know.
Can you tell me a bit about that?
Well, I have to say one thing. You know, all of a sudden we hear that we have a new tenor, but there was not much said about him because there was the publicity machine was not on the go yet for him. And all of a sudden everybody was, you know, like everybody, you're wondering, well, how does it sound? Boy, when he opened his mouth, that was it. He sang very beautifully. He knew how to sing it in those years, you know. And that I have to say, we're talking about something like maybe 20 years, something like that, you know. Yeah.
And how is it singing it with Luciano?
Well, I'm going to tell you one thing. Luciano is a great man. And to be in this with him in an opera, it's something that he has an habit, and I have an habit, that we are very sincere about each our roles. And I have a funny feeling that he is exactly like me. That performance he's doing, it seems it's his last performance. And it's beautiful to see that, you know?
So it's wonderful to hear this rather than the stories of the prima donnitis that seems to be plaguing opera today.
Well, I have to say one thing. You know, prima donnas is a little bit of the past, you know. There is maybe one or two here and there, but in general, there's not much of that anymore. because everybody is there to work, and they know they have to work, and they work, you know.